Hey guys, Jack, and welcome back to another video. And what a very interesting midweek we've had. We saw Matchday drop out of the Carabao Cup against Newcastle St James's Park. United look comfortable against Palace. Everton won another game, and Chelsea won a game. All exciting stuff, but we're going to be talking about the Premier League this week, so let's jump into it. So the game we're going to begin with is the game of the weekend, which is Spurs versus Liverpool. Spurs had a really good result against Arsenal, getting a draw, and they could have possibly won. While Liverpool, while they had a difficult start to the game, they managed to beat West Ham 3-1. And both these teams come into the game in great form. Spurs have looked incredible under Ange who, even against Arsenal, didn't shy away from his own tactics. And I think it's a credit to him. And you can see that even Arsenal fans are taking a liking to him, more not really as who he is as the Tottenham manager, but him as a person. And I saw a clip of him motivating his players for a Australian match in the 2018 World Cup, and he is an incredible speaker. And reading articles about him, it is astonishing just how coherent he is, how well he speaks, and I see why the players like him and why he's done so well where he's gone. Liverpool have obviously been in really good form as well. Their record is better than Spurs at the moment, but they've always had to come back, and that's what happened during midweek against Leicester. They went a goal down, but they managed to come back and beat them 3-1. And it's a good indicator for Klopp that his team are willing to fight, and they're able to bounce back. That they have the talent to definitely do it. So it's not a surprise that they are doing it. But I think it's going to be a very difficult tie at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I feel like it's going to be a high scoring game, and for me, it's going to be a case of moments. So penalty shouts, kind of moments of class, like it was in the North London derby. I think it's going to be a huge game. Christian Romero has looked sketchy in terms of just giving away cheap fouls, but I think he is a battler. He's a fighter, and I don't see him changing his ways. So I think that's where one of kind of those moments are going to happen for Liverpool. Spurs, on the other hand, they have a lot of talent going forward. Kulusevski, Richarlison, who is on the bench, but I think he could feature in this game. Heung-Min Son, Pape Sarr, and Basuma are going to be crucial for them, especially the two midfielders, because while Liverpool have a very dynamic midfield, they are not that defensively capable, and I think that's going to be crucial here. With the amount of energy that Basuma and Sarr have, I think it's going to weigh in on Liverpool, and because they had the midweek fixture, I think I'm going to be going with a Spurs win here. I think it'll be high scoring. I'm going to go with 3-2 to Spurs. Now to quickly run through the rest of the games, Aston Villa played Brighton. Both teams lost midweek in the Carabao Cup, and they're both out of it, so I don't think they're going to be in the best of form. And given... No, I'll do that again. Both Aston Villa and Brighton have been knocked out of the Carabao Cup. Brighton to Chelsea, surprisingly, and Villa to Everton, which is probably even bigger surprise. Both teams would be licking their wounds, but probably be wanting to get a result, especially Unai Emery, who probably relishes these cup competitions. But they do have to consider that they're both in European competitions during midweek. And while it is at Villa Park, given the quality of Brighton and just they've rotated a lot during the midweek game, Aston Villa, on the other hand, they're still struggling with injuries and how they're going to cope with the amount of losses. And even with midweek, that I feel like some of the players might start dropping off because of just how well Brighton have been under De Zerbi. I think this is the first match that they didn't score 3 goals against Chelsea. So it's mad, but I think they're going to continue that trend in the league. So I'm going to go with a 3-2 to Brighton. Arsenal managed to pick up a comfortable win against Brentford, while Bournemouth also picked up a comfortable win against Stoke, and both teams be coming into this, with high spirits. Arsenal have a bit of a trickier time, balancing fitness and stuff. But while they did rotate, and they rotated quite a bit, we saw the likes of Kiwior, Jorginho, Saigo Jr., who I think he made his debut for the club, get minutes, and they looked quite well. Bournemouth, in their hand, they played a bit of a stronger side, but against weaker opposition, and I think they're going to be a challenge for Arsenal. Arsenal are going to be away at home at the Vitality, and they're going to be hoping that the likes of Saka, Gabriel Jesus, I would presume Nketiah will come on the pitch, in place for the likes of Trossard and Martinelli on that left hand side. And I think it will be a tricky tie. I think it might be a bit of a draw, a bit of a dull game, because Arsenal will be looking at their midweek clash. But I think they're going to still have enough to beat Bournemouth. I'm going to go with a 2-1 to Arsenal. Everton picked up another win this week courtesy of Aston Villa away from home, and I think that's a huge result for them. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who looks like he's back, he's back into fitness, and I think that can only be a good thing. I think they might have to keep him on the bench, because I think Beto, he has a similar play style given his size and stature. He is a good goal scorer. And when he was back in Udinese, I think that they're going to allow Dominic Calvert-Lewin to kind of come off the bench, and I think that's going to be good for them. James Garner has looked really good since coming into the squad again, and I think they're going to be too much for Luton, who, despite picking up their first point of the week, like, it was quite fortunate circumstances that they did so. I think it's going to be too much for Luton, especially at Goodison Park. Like, I'll be very surprised if they manage to pick up anything from this game. But I think they'll make it difficult for them. It'll be a physical game, and I think while Everton are up for that, they'll be only able to handle so much. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 to Everton. Repeat of midweek with Man United beating Crystal Palace 3-0. I think it's going to be a similar story. It's at Old Trafford, and I presume Man United will play in a bit of a stronger squad. The likes of Maguire, Garnacho had good games. Palace, I think they played a relatively strong squad, weren't able to do enough to trouble the United side that much. I think that's a credit to United and a credit to giving it was a difficult win against Burnley last week. I think they're going to need to kind of go into it, and I hope they do for their sake, that they have a good motivation to get a result in this game. I think they will. Palace will make it a lot more difficult, but I still think at home at Old Trafford, I think United are going to win this 2-0. Newcastle got a huge victory against Man City at St James's Park, beating them 1-0. And while they struggled in the first half, they were incredible in the second half, showing huge fight and determination. And they got the goal, and they probably deserved it in the end of the day. And I think that motivation is going to continue flying for them. While they do have PSG during the midweek in the Champions League, I just think Burnley under company have struggled to begin the season. Like, even against United, they had a lot of fun going down the wings. The likes of Koleosho was brilliant, and they had their chances. But I think this Newcastle side are a lot more defensively sound. Even against Man City, they were kind of put together. Jamal Lascelles was brilliant during the midweek, and I don't think he's going to feature here. But they have the likes of Fabian Schär, Botman, Trippier, Dan Burn. They have a lot of talent in the back line, and I think even with Nick Pope and goals, they're going to struggle to put the ball in the net. And for Newcastle, I presume Callum Wilson will probably get the nod ahead of Isak, to rest him for midweek. I could see them getting a 3-0 win here against Burnley, and things are going to get difficult for Vincent Kompany. David Moyes and West Ham wanted to get a result here against probably a fragile Sheffield United side after last week's drubbing, and they be hoping to kind of get something from this game. Obviously, they have Europa League during the midweek, but I think they're going to be looking to get a result here. David Moyes has proven so far that while he is pragmatic, he is kind of loosening himself up a bit. I mean, during the Carabao Cup, Mohamed Kudus looked incredible, and I wonder, will he get a start in this game? James Ward-Prowse has obviously been incredible for them. I think he's contributed a goal or assist in every game he's played, and I think that's going to continue, and they're going to compound the misery on Paul Heckingbottom and his side. I'm going to go with I think I'm going to go with a 2-0. I feel sorry for Wolves here because Man City typically don't lose consecutive games. And while Wolves are a difficult team at times, I think Man City are going to be playing a full-strength squad. Obviously, missing Rodri was very apparent during midweek. Like, Calvin Phillips is a good central midfielder, but I think a lot of progression came from Mateo Kovacic. Wolves, on the other hand, they've struggled to kind of get goals here, and I do think they're going to get a goal in this game. I just think with Erling Haaland and Pep Guardiola seeking vengeance, and unfortunately, Wolves are a victim of that, so I'm going to go with a 3-1 to Man City. I feel like the Forest and Brentford game is going to be a bit turgid. It's going to be at the City Ground, and while I have a lot of credit for Forest at home, Brentford will make it very tricky for them, especially at set pieces, because I don't think Nottingham Forest are particularly strong at those at the moment. They have a lot of size, but they seem quite culpable in that spot. Brentford have struggled in the last couple of games. They've obviously lost to Newcastle, and they lost midweek to Arsenal, and I say that will have an effect on them, but we've seen how Thomas Frank does. And he is a very capable manager. He probably is one of the best managers in the league. I think it's going to be difficult for Brentford to break down this Nottingham Forest side at home. But I think it will be a set piece, and I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. Bit of a rivalry here with Craven. Rivalry here at Craven Cottage with Fulham taking on Chelsea. Fulham have looked they look competent, but they haven't looked exceptional like they did last season. Losing Mitrovic has obviously been huge, and Jimenez hasn't hit the ground running really. But they have shown a lot of promise, especially in midfield, building up play, and I think they need to look to find just finishing boots, really, quite frankly. Chelsea, on the other hand, had a great result during the midweek, beating their feeder club Brighton, and you have to give credit for them, beating the bigger side at the moment. But joking aside, they needed this win. They needed something to kind of pick up the the spirit of the Chelsea fans, because I feel sorry for Pochettino, because this, and I've said it in my review last week, this isn't what he needs to be dealing with at the moment. Such a new squad, such a new project, and to be faced with something like this. And I think this is going to be a very difficult time for them. They're going to be struggling here to get something from this game, because they've struggled to finish. Like, even against Brighton, they had their chances and they just couldn't capitalize enough. Like, Mudryk is looking more promising as the weeks go on, but I don't know if he'll feature here. It's very interesting to see what will happen, and whether Pochettino will kind of stick with the squad that beat Brighton, or that he looks to kind of switch to the to a stronger team. Obviously, losing Malo Gusto isn't ideal, because they need a right back, but maybe that solidity will help them in kind of with dealing with counterattacks. But I think Fulham are going to make this such a tricky game. I'm going to stick with a 1-1 draw. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take care.